Okay, here we go. So when you open the Excel files, what you're going to see, I put these boxes here, so we already anticipate what's going to happen. So we are going to end up with a full table, a couple graphs with this line going through it, and see these error bars. And this little table here we're going to add, and this chi-square thing we're going to talk about a little bit. Okay. So whenever you want to work with numbers, one of the things you can do, and we'll do here, is we're going to select all the places that numbers are going to go. We're going to right mouse click. And we're going to go Format Cells. And we're going to go to Number, and we're going to say 2 decimal places. So now the numbers all look nice and neat, and it's not a big deal when you're typing numbers in, but when you do a calculation, it makes a difference. Okay, so now these are things we're going to type in some times, which are we're going to pick a time 0, a dot that we're going to call on its spark tape, we're going to call time 0, and x0, and then we're going to count them off. Each one's 1/10 of a second apart, and then we're going to measure the distance from the first one to each one of these guys. We're going to give it some value of error for the measurement. These are kind of exaggerated here just because I want to show nice error bars on the graph so you can see. And then we're going to assume that the time has no error. There are ways of doing it to take that into account, but we're not going to this time. Okay, so the first thing we need now is we need to make a delta t. At least that's what we want to. We don't have to, but I want to spell it out. Delta t, and then enter. We clicked on this, we typed in, we hit enter. So you can't have a delta t without 2 t's, so we're going to go to the second here, and then we're going to use the equal sign. That's when we want some formula to happen, and we're going to say this is the final time, and we're going to subtract the initial time, and we're going to hit enter, and then we get a time interval. And then we can fill in the rest of the boxes by, see how it's a white cross? Now it becomes a little black cross, and we pull this down. It's called a fill handle, and then we get a bunch of delta t's. Now we don't have any error on that. And now next thing is we're going to create a delta x, delta-x, enter. Once again, we can't have delta t be at the here because we need delta x because we need 2 values. So once again, we're going to say equals the final position, which is here, minus the initial position, which is here. See B3, B2, and we hit enter, and we see that this thing is moving along. So we see distances between it ends up that's the distances between the dots. Okay, so now we want to get the velocity, and as is customary, we put the units in parentheses. So we type in v, meters per second, here. In fact, in this case, it's going to be centimeters per second, and we hit enter. Now we have delta x over delta t, so we say equals the delta x value, enter, divided by the delta t value, and then we hit enter, and then we got it. So now, and then we grab a hold of the fill handle once again, and we get a series of velocity values. Now we want a delta v, sigma v. So we type that there, and since we are going to say that there's no error on the t measurement, there's only an error on the x measurement, that the two will be equal. We don't need any formula. You can demonstrate to yourself. Now, of course, we could take into account both of them, but we're going to keep it simple today, because it is a delta x. So you subtract two things with error, then you get another error. But we're just going to keep it simple for today. And in fact, some of these are pretty large. I did this on purpose just to show you to make things artificially bigger, these error bars, so you can see things. Okay, so now we've got all these things, and in fact, we can get started in making a graph. So we want to graph the time. We want to graph the time here, and we want to graph the velocity here. And so we can also say at time, we can say, well, at time 0 that we started from rest, so we can call this 0.0 with no problems. So now we have a time 0, velocity 0. At time 0.1, the velocities made it up to 0.6, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now I want to make a graph. So what we do is we go to the Insert menu, and we see Charts. They call it Charts. And we want to pick a scatter chart, and we want to pick, well, isn't that interesting? It's automatically telling what, that's not going to work. That's, okay. Let's do it a different way. So, we have time here. We're going to select time. And now we want to select another column that's not right next to it, so we hold down the Control key, Control, and then we click on the V, and we go like this. There we go. See, now we have the two columns selected. Now we go Insert, and we want to scatter plot, and there it is. So there is our and its velocity here. Well, velocity is also the y-axis, and we'll get to that cleanups. But the next thing we want to do is want to create the line. Yes. So now what we want to do is create the calculated value. All right, and that's just from the equation for a line, y equals mx plus b. And so we do calc val. That's what we're going to call it. I think your lab manual calls it that. And let's see. We're going to take a break for a moment. I'm going to stop this so the file doesn't get monstrous, and I'm going to start a new one.